everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of the season 3 premiere episode of Batwoman, which was titled Mad as a Hatter. Now there'll likely be spoilers in this review, so just beware before going into this video, and you can check out my previous reviews of Batwoman of both season 1 and season 2, and I will leave the links within the description. So to catch up with what previously happened within season 3, Batwoman had to face off against Black Mask as he was unleashing chaos within Gotham. Kate Kane had eliminated the Siri influence and decided to leave Gotham in order to find Bruce. Alice had been arrested for her crimes, revealing to Ryan that she had knowledge about her biological mother. Ryan was finally released from probation. Luke had discovered the Batwing costume. Jacob was imprisoned because of the corruption that was revealed within a Crow security firm, and he was sent to jail within Metropolis. And we saw the fallout of all of the criminal riots, which indicated the emergence of the classic Batman villains. Now, when covering Batwoman, particularly its second season, I said that it needed large areas of improvement, particularly in terms of the villains, which were very lackluster, and the overall storytelling and writing, and just more imagination in terms of Gotham City itself and establishing Batwoman's role as the city's protector. Now, having watched this overall premiere episode, I have to say that sadly the problems are still there in terms of the overall storytelling and writing within this show. Now, all of the actors are very well established within their roles, and there is a good chemistry between the overall team of Batwoman in terms of Ryan and Sophie and Luke and Mary. So they've established a good dynamic between those group of actors. And yes, Alice, played by Rachel Skarsten, continues to be a very watchable character. There are still issues in terms of pacing and tone, and this episode overall didn't convince me that we're gonna improve on the multiple issues that we had, particularly within the second season. We began with the opening where we saw very much Ryan and Luke in full crime fighting duo mode in terms of being Batwoman and Batwing, as what we would establish later on throughout this episode, and they were pursuing certain criminals. They were on the hunt for the Poison Ivy, as what we saw at the end of season 2, and we do know that that classic villain will be making an appearance throughout this season. We see that Alice has been sent back to Arkham for all of her crimes, and again, this has never made sense, as I mentioned when I did a trailer review. For all of the crimes that Alice has committed throughout both seasons, she'd surely be put in some sort of ultra maximum security facility in solitary confinement, but that's not the case, and we all know they have to bring Alice back to the main narrative. It just didn't make any sense that she would be put back in Arkham, considering the amount of times that she's broken out of the facility. We see the introduction of the Mad Hatter, who's following Alice's previous activities. We saw in the beginning episode that he's very much built an obsession with Alice. This is in keeping with the original inception of the character, who we all know was taken originally from the Lewis Carroll Alice in Wonderland series. And I was never convinced by this iteration of Mad Hatter. It was very hokey, very jokey, and initially I thought this was going to have a substantial arc, maybe a 2-3 episode arc involving the character, but from what we saw in this episode, he was very much a one and done. We get a scene later on between Ryan and Alice, again making reference to the fact that Alice knows who her biological mother is. And we also know that Ryan's biological mother will be played by Robin Givens throughout this season. We catch up with Sophie later on, who we've seen has had various casual relationships following her breakup with Kate. And she also offers to find out the identity of Ryan's biological mother. We see her later on hacking into certain systems and mainframes in order to find out who Ryan's identity is. We have a later conversation when she tells Ryan that Ryan's mother had hid her identity, or hid the pregnancy of Ryan, but Sophie was able to find out who she was, and then she gives the details to Ryan in an envelope so Ryan can open them up at a later time. We also had the introduction of Lieutenant Montoya, a very iconic character within the Batman universe, and we see her in the beginning. She's struggling to deal with the outbreak of Batman's villains. She later on has a discussion with the new mayor of Gotham City, outlining her concerns and that she needs funding in order to take down these original criminals. We see Mary coming across Mad Hatter during her graduation in order to become a more professional doctor, and that's good because it never made sense how she was able to carry out treatment for all of these patients without having a medical license. We later on see that Mad Hatter influences Mary as she's making her speech, and she brings the headmaster onto the main stage and makes Mary carry out an autopsy of him in quite a gruesome sequence where she's taken out all of his organs. The Mad Hatter has also put all of the other students within his influence. We see that Ryan, Sophie and Luke have realised what Mad Hatter is doing, so they have to break down the signal, and they also realise that Mad Hatter was very obsessed by Alice, so they had to break Alice out of prison in order to make her stop the Mad Hatter's plans. So despite the fact that Luke was able to break the signal, they very much had to use Alice as some sort of contingency to stop Mad Hatter. Now Alice has been deluding herself, it seems, into believing that Jacob was sending her letters. We see her pinning the messages on the wall, but we later on find out that they're just pictures. We then get a quite ridiculous narrative when Mary has taken out the majority of the organs of the head teacher, and then Sophie reveals that she has to kill him in order to break the mental influence from the Mad Hatter, and then once she's killed him they can then revive him using the defibrillator. It just made no sense whatsoever and really strained credibility, and at this point I was watching this sequence thinking, what is going on here? You mean to tell me that Mary can take out all of his organs and then just resuscitate him again? But Mary proceeds to do this, and then it disables the mind control. The Mad Hatter then proceeds to make all of the students try to kill themselves by tying the ties around their neck, but then Alice emerges and then convinces Mad Hatter to stand down because he's obsessed with her. But after a long discussion between the two, Alice then takes him down by then stabbing him. She thinks she can then just walk away free, but then she's later on apprehended by both Ryan and Luke. And then that brings an end to the Mad Hatter overall, and as I mentioned, this was very disappointing because I thought he was going to be one of the main villains throughout the season, but it certainly seems that they're going to just be utilising a lot of Batman's villains. So later on, as I mentioned, we're going to get Poison Ivy. It's been revealed throughout various articles that also be seen an appearance of Mr. Freeze, along with Killer Croc, as what we saw within the trailer as well. So it very much seems as if we're going to get a much more of a sporadic use of Batman villains throughout this season. I don't think there'll be one mainstream villain throughout. We're just going to get these multiple episodes where we see the villains making appearances. So again, is that a good or bad take? It will certainly keep the season fresh, I suppose. But if these villains are like the Mad Hatter, where they're very undeveloped and they're very much a villain of the week, it's just going to feel very fan service at this point. So after the end of that crisis, the team then come back together again. Ryan decides not to find out the true identity of her mother. We see that Luke manages to uncover the AI influence of his Batwing suit, and it turns out to be his dad's voice, so this will help him master the suit a lot more because it gave out in the beginning part of the episode. We then see that Montoya sets up a meeting with Batwoman, and we learn that Montoya has struck a deal with Alice, who has revealed Ryan's identity in order for her freedom. This is so that they can hunt down the various weapons of mass destruction that have been separated all throughout Gotham. Now, this is really the ridiculous part of the episode as well, because we all knew that there was going to be some sort of release from Alice in order to keep her involved within the main narrative. And as I stated within my trailer review, the only logical conclusion was that there would be some deal struck so that Alice can give some sort of intel of all the dangerous criminals, and a trade-off would be to see her released from prison. But the reason this doesn't make sense is because surely you would get the information from Alice first and then apprehend the criminals before releasing her, because you know how dangerous she is and you know how resourceful she is. If you've seen the trailer, you will know that they do put on some sort of electronic tag from Alice, but then again, she could just find some sort of highly intelligent criminal who could break away this device from her. Surely it would make far more sense if you put her under some sort of house arrest and then get the information from her. But as I mentioned before, this is their way of keeping Alice within the main storyline. So in one sense, this does fix one of the main issues that I had with season 2, in that we were concentrating so much with Alice, but she felt very separate from the main core group of heroes. So they've done this to make sure that we can keep the Alice within the main narrative, but at the same time, it won't take away from the main characters. So we will see how this main narrative plays out throughout the whole entire season. And then we did get the reveal of Ryan's biological mother, as what I mentioned before. Now, she turns out to be the main CEO of Jet Industries. So we will later on see that Ryan's brother will also be making an appearance as well. I'm sure within the next upcoming episodes we will see Ryan discovering who her true mother is, and then we will see the eventual reconciliation between the two characters. So overall, as I mentioned before, I just think this premiere episode did nothing really to redeem any concerns in terms of the overall writing. Now, it is only the first episode. Going into this third season, if anybody disliked a lot of what happened in the previous season, I don't think this premiere episode did anything to alleviate your concerns. I do like all of the actors that are involved, and I like the way that they play their characters. So it's no fault on their own. But again, as I've mentioned in my trailer review, we're just riffing off Batman's villains again. Why can't we try and make the show even more fresh by utilising some of the main villains from Batwoman's universe in terms of the comic and the source material, unless we are then saying that there are no really interesting characters within the Batwoman universe, which is why we're having to riff so much on Batman's characters. At this point, it just feels very tired that we're seeing all of Batman's villains again, and I just think they could have served themselves far more better if they tried to be a bit more creative and a bit more original. But we will see overall how well they interpret these characters. But if we're going by how they showed the Mad Hatter throughout this season, if all of the villains turn out to be like this, then it's going to be a very hard watch going ahead through the season. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings and review of Batwoman Season 3 premiere episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this will indeed see an improvement within the show throughout its third season, or do you think this will continue the severe lack of quality of what we saw within the previous 2 episodes? Let me know all of your thoughts. And as usual, when covering all of these shows, if there are any episode standouts within this season, I will cover reviews of those, and I'll also do a review of the season finale and the season overall itself. Please also hit and like those subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.